Hi there, this is Sam. Welcome to Reloved Guitars, and welcome to the videos series accompanying the ebook, which covers the Reloved Guitars 5-step setup process for electric guitars and the 4-step process for acoustic guitars like this one. So in that series, what we're going to do is we're going to cover four steps of setting up this guitar, and this guitar is, at the moment, is quite typical of a budget acoustic guitar. It's a Fender DG14STF, which is a very nice basic quality guitar, probably from the late 80s, early 90s, and it's got, it's nicely built. It's held up really well over all these years. It's made in Korea, and it suffers, like most budget guitars, from high bridge action, so that the action as you play the notes or bar chords down here is quite difficult to do. You have to press a long way down, and it also suffers from high first fret action, which makes playing it down here not only tiring, but it makes notes sound really sharp. Even though the open note is in tune, you go and fret them on an open chord, they always sound a little bit sharp, and that's because the first fret action is higher than it needs to be. So the purpose of this videos that accompany the ebook, this is premium content that you get with the ebook. Nobody else will have access to these. This video is about taking you through each of these 4 steps to set up this acoustic guitar using my tried and tested method, which I've used at least the 5-step probably 200 times, and maybe 30 to 50 acoustic guitars in that time, all using this kind of method. So this accompanies the ebook, and each of these videos will cover one part or one step of the process. So there'll be 4 for this guitar. First one will cover setting the action, which will be the first stage. Now, the interesting thing about setting the action is, typically when you get an acoustic guitar second hand, you might have bought this on eBay or from Gumtree or from a friend. Basically, as with an electric guitar, you kind of get what you're given, so it plays the way it plays. It either happens to come from the factory a long time ago with a nice low action, or it comes with a high one, and you sort of learn to live with it. The purpose of the Reloved Guitars 4-step setup process for the acoustic is to tell the guitar the action we want and to make the guitar play with it. So we're in charge of it. So this process is all about setting the playing action we want first. That's the first step. And in the case of the acoustic guitar, it involves setting the height of the action we want down here. So I tend to measure the last fret, because I'll say, well, look, I want about at most 2 millimeters down here on the last fret. Currently it's probably about 5. No, you know what, it's probably even more than that. Let's use my little gaugey thing to tell you. I'll tell you just how hard this thing will be to play at the moment. Ooh. This is easily 5 millimeters, okay? So it's 3 millimeters higher than I would want it for a comfortable, nice low playing action guitar. So we're going to take this down by at least 3 millimeters. And at the other end here, this is, I would guess that's about 2.5 millimeters tall here, the way the strings are going over the first fret. And we'll take that from 2.5 millimeters down to about 0.3 of a millimeter. And the transformation that's going to give us is going to be amazing. This will go from really difficult guitar to play, it's sort of just about playable, to something that's just light and glorious and effortless. And you'll instantly, when you do this on your guitar, following these steps, you're going to instantly feel the difference, and that's a great payoff of this. There's no way around, there's no way you can't feel the difference. It's going to be great from the start. I sound like Donald Trump. It's going to be great, it's going to be superb. Now, what does he say? It's going to be terrific. The action on your guitar is going to be terrific. You're going to get a great action on your guitar. It's going to be terrific. So the first stage of the acoustic setup is to set the action, and that comprises of lowering the bridge saddle, this bit here, lowering the first fret action down here, and also making sure that there is the correct amount of curvature in the neck. Now, we need some in there. It can't be flat, because the flatter it is, the less room the strings have to spin. So if you hit it hard when it's dead flat, with a low action, you're going to get the strings hitting the midpoint of the frets. So if you like a low action, which we're aiming for on acoustic, we're going to need a little bit of curvature to allow the strings to spin in their middle part. Hello! Okay, thank you. There you go, live video making. So step one, set the action. 3 components: bridge saddle, nut, relief. Step 2 of the process is we're going to, in the case of this guitar, we're either going to do one of 2 things in step 2. We're either going to level the frets if we need to. If they don't play once we've set the action lower, we have a problem which needs us to level the frets. It's quite rare on acoustics. The great thing about acoustics is you can get a huge amount of action improvement without needing to go near leveling frets. You tend to only need to level frets when you get down to the electric guitar sort of region of action. So very low, perhaps 1.5 millimeters and lower is where you absolutely almost always need to level the frets to allow the strings to play. So with the acoustic on step 2, if we have a problem, perchance, then we will level the frets on this guitar, and I'll show you how to do that. If there may be another concern that makes us level the frets, and it may be that this guitar, and it does, has some wear in the early frets down here. Now, when we get to this stage, or this step in the process, we'll judge whether this is bad enough to need taking out with a bit of fret leveling. So it's kind of a judgment call. Is this bad enough wear? Is it interfering with the play? Are there a little bit of unevenness in the frets causing buzzing? In which case we'll do some leveling to take away both those problems at once, but we won't know until we get there. If the guitar plays beautifully and these aren't a problem, but we've got a nice low action and it plays all the way up and down the neck, then step 2 really just becomes about polishing the frets, and we will use a little fret protector, or we'll mask off the guitar with masking tape, and we'll clean each fret with some fret rubbers and some Autosol chrome cleaner and make them really shiny. So customer getting their guitar back, or you getting your guitar back, it comes back feeling like it's brand new. Even if there are some slight dents in there, it will still feel pretty new. Third stage of this then will be to put on some new strings and to take all the slack out of the strings. And this stretching thing, where you take the slack out, is absolutely critical. It's the #1 cause of the guitar not playing or staying in tune. And people don't ever give it the amount of time it requires. To do it properly, to make sure your guitar has no more slack to come out when you don't least expect it, when you're bending notes or hitting it hard in a gig. To avoid that, you have to spend probably 20 to 30 minutes pulling deliberately, carefully, to get all the slack out from every part. And we're going to go through how to do that. Once you've done that, the only other contributor to tuning and stability on your guitar, whether it's electric or acoustic, is the quality of the cut of your nut slots, not your tuners. Amazingly enough, they have almost no effect whatsoever on the tuning stability. The only reason you would ever change your tuners is just for style or for the precision of the operation. You know, turning it, you get different gear ratios, and sometimes it's great to have a different, more expensive gear ratio because it's much finer adjustment. But it's never because you need to do it to keep the guitar in tune. The tuning stability is to do with the nut and the stretch in the strings. Okay, that's a great thing I learned over about 200 setups. And once you get it taken care of, you can even use a tremolo on an average Strat as much as you like, and it will stay in tune. Get those 2 things right: nut, slack removed. Okay, that's step number. Oh heck! Oh, I've done it wrong. That's step number 4. Cut, edit. Step number 3 is once you've done any fret work, which was fret leveling possibly at step 2, we take the strings off and we'll clean everything. We might even take the tuners off and give them a manual clean so they go back on looking sparkly as they can be. And that, if we take the tuners off, we can get around the parts of the headstock we can't normally use, and we'll give everything as much of a clean as we can. And then the final step is we put the strings back on and stretch them out. We don't have any intonation settings. Now, there is a 5-step process for the electric guitar, and the 5th step in the electric guitar is to adjust each string length individually to intonate the strings properly. On an acoustic guitar, you almost never get that option because the bridge is preset. It's what's called a compensated bridge, which has a preset kind of movement, and it really compensates for the B string only. Actually, no, it does for all of them. No, yeah, it does. It tilts over it sort of moves them back a little bit in a pattern. But so that's what's called a compensated bridge. Sorry, saddle. and so we don't really have anything we can do with that. That sets it as close as it can be. So that's why it's a 4-step for the acoustic and not a 5-step process. Okay, I'm going to go and get something to eat, and I'll see you again in the first video, the step 1, setting the action. And I hope that you find the information in these videos really helpful. It really recommend you read the parts of the ebook, the preamble stuff, read through the illustrated steps, which will just be duplicating what you see here. In fact, the photographs that I use will come from this setup, and I'll use a combination of iPhone for nice high quality shots, as well as a slightly better camera with some bright lights sticking off the top. So I'm gonna get as many good quality pictures as I can as I go along. But as I say, you'll see me taking the pictures as we go, and then you'll see them appearing in the ebook as well. So read the background information in the ebook, because it will tell you some interesting stuff about frets, about things about leveling frets, and why one method is better than the other, why the method we're going to use is better than the other. So there's some really good background info, and then the step-by-step stuff will show you exactly what to do, and then this video will show it live and happening. So you can either watch this before you do yours, or you can watch it after you've done yours to see how the experience compares. But I look forward to taking you through all of those steps in the acoustic setup, and also maybe later on in the 5-step electric setup. So see you in a minute.